Hello everyone, I'm Gauri Kashyap
And I'm Sai Spandana.
and this is SEO Explains. Today we're here to talk about something that has been happening in the court this year that we haven't really seen in a long time. The court has been consistent in listing and hearing constitution bench cases and has put out lots of big judgments on animal rights, separation of powers, defection and more.
The data of the Constitution Bench activity this year in court is also quite impressive. In just about 5 months, there have been 55 hearings over 16 different cases, and 13 Constitution Bench judgments have been delivered. But why does this matter? Doesn't the court always have hearings and deliver judgments?
It's true, the court in benches of 2 or 3 judges hear cases every day and naturally lots of judgments come out. But constitution benches hear cases where there is a big question of law that requires the interpretation of the constitution. So this big bench will normally consist of 5, 7 or 9 judges who sit together to hear cases. So because constitution benches have such a big responsibility, most of the time it's topics like religion, politics, democracy, fundamental rights of people like you and me, issues like this that get discussed before these big benches. Now, for the last few years, the court has received a lot of criticism, right, for becoming, if I can call it that, a supreme appellate court. This is because it's been mostly hearing appeals on judgments from high courts or lower courts and not really hearing constitution bench cases. Particularly during Chief Justice N.V. Ramana's tenure, which is about 1.5 years, there was almost not a single constitution bench case that was heard. It received some criticism for sticking to the so-called safe topics, right? When Chief Justice Lalit took over and his tenure was about 2.5 months, there was almost a militant approach to bringing back constitution benches. Literally the night before he took oath, the SE put out a list of some 25 cases that they would dust off and revive and hear again. It seems that under Chief Justice Chandrachud's tenure, this effort has carried forward. Now, as I understand it, you've put together some data on this topic. Could you tell us a little bit about the Constitution Bench activity in this year particularly?
Yeah, right off the bat, the thing that stands out the most is the number of cases itself. They've conducted over 55 Constitution Bench hearings in just 5 months. This is spread across 16 different cases. Of these, 9 times the benches were assembled for judgment pronouncements. So this means the bench will deliver or read out the operative part of a judgment. In the other 7 cases, substantive hearings were conducted, which is when the court hears arguments from all the parties.
So we'll get to judgments in a second. I just want to focus on hearings for a minute here. You said 7 cases were heard in the duration of this year so far. How did the court divide its time?
The Maharashtra MLA disqualification case.
This is the Shiv Sena rebellion in Maharashtra.
Yes, it concerned all the petitions in the Shiv Sena rebellion, and it was heard for the longest time. It was spread across 14 hearings. Okay. So this takes up about 25% of the total Constitution Bench hearings this year. The hearings for the queer marriage equality comes second with 10 days of hearings. Accounting to about 18% of the time the court spent on this particular case. By court, I mean the Constitution Bench, of course. Next, an arbitration case to decide if the group of companies doctrine applies to arbitration cases in India took place across 5 hearings. The case to decide who has power in the NCT of Delhi also had 5 hearings. Next, the union's curative petition asking for additional compensation of the Bhopal gas tragedy victims had a total of 4 hearings.
Right, so in the group of doctrines case and in the marriage equality case, hearings have been completed now, right?
Yes, and the judgments in these cases are reserved and they're expected sometime after the court's summer vacation. Justice Bhatt, who was on the bench for the marriage equality case, is set to retire in October this year, so the judgment should come before that.
So, speaking of judgments now, you mentioned that 13 judgments came out. This in itself is quite something, right? Particularly because it's 13 Constitution Bench cases. I think the last time we saw a flurry of activity and multiple Constitution Bench judgments was in 2019 with big cases like Sabrimala, Aadhaar, and so on, right?
Yeah, and this year some of these cases that got judgments were pending for well over 10 years. In fact, the oldest case is the excommunication of the Dawoodi Bohra members, which was heard 36 years after it was first initiated. The issue itself came up before the court in the 50s and 60s. Then in 1986, this particular case was filed. It was first referred to a constitution bench in 2004, and now 19 years later, the court has completed hearings. But I suppose there's still no closure in the case though, because it's been tagged with the Shabarimala petitions and has been referred to a 9-judge bench.
And that in itself has been pending for a good number of years now.
Yes. But this list also has some young cases, like the Maharashtra MLA disqualification case, which was filed in June last year. The hearings happened over February and March this year, and the judgment was delivered on May 11th. So that's a pretty quick constitution bench judgment to have come. The main focus here is that a lot of people criticize constitution benches and say that at one time 5 or more judges are stuck in one case. So how do they tackle the mountain of other cases that are pending before the court? But interestingly, so far, in the past 5 months, the court has heard all of these constitution bench cases, but we've seen that on average, pendency has been dropping by 400 cases every month.
Just to clarify to our viewers, this doesn't mean that the court has cleared 400 cases. It has cleared a lot more. But considering the fact that while it's clearing cases, new cases are also being filed, this is the net figure left at the end of the month. So at the end of the month, pendency number is less by 400.
Right, exactly. So maybe sitting in constitution benches doesn't really make the court's other functions suffer as expected?
Certainly so far it looks like it. Well, I think that about wraps up our review of constitution bench cases and judgments this year. Thank you for breaking the data down for us. Spandana's code data on this topic is available on scobserver.in. Thank you for watching SEO Explains. Make sure to drop a comment and let us know what you'd like to learn about in the next video.